Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 4th grade concept of comparing fractions. This is standard 4.3D in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 9 off the 2019 released STAAR test. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and then we will look at our answers together. So Mrs. Thompson needs 15 halves, or 15 over 2 yards of red fabric, and 7.5 yards of silver fabric. Which comparison is true? So we've got an improper fraction and a mixed number, and it's either greater than, less than, or equal to. We're not really going to worry too much about D. They just need a fourth option. So it's greater than, less than, or equal to. So it's going to be helpful for us that we have at least both fractions with a denominator of 2, because we always want denominators to be equal for us to compare, but one's a mixed number, one's a improper fraction, and we can turn both into the other. So let's see if we can, let's start with this 15 halves. We could start with a picture. Let me show you how to do this with a picture, and then we'll do it without a picture. So I've got I've got 2 halves. I'm just going to draw halves. This is how we draw improper fractions. So now I've got 4 halves. I've got 6 halves. I'm just going to keep doing this until I get up to my 15. That's my 8 halves. And that's my 10 halves. You notice I've got 10 halves, and that's 5 wholes. That's 12 halves. I'm getting closer. That's 6 wholes. All right, 14 halves. That's the last one that I can do completely. This next one, I'm just going to need to do this one over here. So there we go. I've got my 15 halves. So if I wanted to represent it visually, I've got 15 halves here. And if I wanted to switch this into an improper fraction, from an improper fraction to a mixed number, let's just count how many holes I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So take a look at that. 15 halves is 7 holes, and then a half left over. So it looks like these two might be identical, because if I were to take my 7.5, you can see here that I could shift it back to 15 halves. So that helps with a picture. So I'm thinking B is my answer. How can I verify that with some strategies? Well, how we change from improper to mixed. So let's do it without pictures now. Improper to mixed, you're going to divide up. That is a strategy that always works to change any fraction into a mixed number here, which means divide up. We're going to kind of take this 15 halves and we're going to tip it over to its side. So the 2 becomes the divisor, 15 becomes the dividend. We divide the denominator up into the numerator. 2 goes into 15 7 times. So there we go. I've got a remainder of 1. We don't necessarily do remainders. What we do is if we have a remainder, that becomes the numerator of our mixed number. And if we have a numerator, that means we need a denominator, which ends up being 2, because that net doesn't change. So 15 halves is the same as 7.5. How do we go from a mixed to an improper fraction without drawing a picture? Well, we're going to multiply, and then we're going to add. So let's take our 7.5. And what we do, 7.5 means we've got 7 holes, and we're going to use this denominator of 2. So we're going to multiply 7 times 2. Right? So 7 times 2, that equals 14. And then we're going to add any that's left over. So that's my numerator of 1. So 7 times 2 makes 14. We're going to add that 1 back in. So that equals 15. But we need a denominator. The denominator never changes, and that's going to go back to 2. So that's how we change from a mixed number to an improper fraction, improper to mixed, or we can just use pictures. But as we can see here, 15 halves and 7.5 are actually identical. One just is a mixed, one is an improper fraction. So our answer here is B.